Today's guest is a cloud architect, an engineering manager, and the technical team lead of Australian fintech company Zip. He has authored books on microservices orchestration and service mesh, microservices with Azure by Pact, Kubernetes succinctly, and Istio succinctly. Sharing with us his knowledge and experience on microservices, also from Sydney, Australia, Rahul Rai. Good day, Rahul. Welcome to our podcast. So, before anything, we want to get to know more of what you do, Rahul. Can you tell us more of what you do and how you came about writing all those books?
Microservices is one of the areas of interest to me, and also cloud, and hence all of those books. So I like to share what I learn, and these books are sort of my learning journey.
In our last podcast episode, we talked about taking a more modular approach rather than a monolithic one, which is the better way for organizations to embark on their digital transformation journeys. Do you think that this modular approach is the way forward as well?
So before we want to dismiss Monolith, I would just like to say that microservices are not a cure-all. So in fact, in most of the cases, monoliths are a better design choice. And some monoliths, such as the single process or modular monoliths, have a whole lot of advantages as well. It is much simpler to deploy a monolith, and it's much easier to avoid many of the pitfalls associated with distributed systems, such as transactions and latency with monoliths. And monoliths can result in much simpler developer workflows, monitoring, troubleshooting, and other activities like end-to-end testing as well. And in fact, many organizations, monoliths have a bad reputation only because the application concerns are poorly segregated, which makes it hard to decouple parts of the application and for developers to deploy them independently. Now, that being said, as Monolith grows, it starts yielding diminishing returns. And one of the biggest advantages of microservices is isolation. So, isolation between services makes adoption of continuous delivery very simple. And this allows you to safely deploy applications and roll out changes and revert deployments in case of failures. Since services can be individually versioned and deployed, you can achieve significant savings in the deployment and testing of microservices, which is not the case with monoliths.
Where do you see the distinction when to choose a monolithic application design, when to choose a microservice model?
So start with a monolith. Of course, design it nicely so that things are nicely segregated. And when the need comes, so as monolith starts growing and you see that it has started addressing a host of concerns, then you start splitting out the modules.
I think there's some good advice there. I mean, I think that if the application design is done well from the outset, the monolithic design is modular so that it can be broken down into independent services in the future. It's going to make your life a lot easier if you do ever want to evolve that code base into a microservices. We're seeing a lot of projects taking that approach where the monolith has become too unwieldy, too unmanageable, and they want to break it down in independent services. And so we can provide tool sets to facilitate that. But you also make some valid points to say that, look, if you don't have the capabilities, if you've got it working with a small team, and it's not just the development team, but the DevOps team as well, maybe microservices, you're not ready for it yet. And that building a monolithic-based application is going to be easier to maintain that code base, easier to deploy. Just give it some architectural considerations where it can be broken down into independent services in the future.
So, you're an experienced cloud architect. What problems do you often encounter when an enterprise tries to implement microservices in their organization?
Most of the young organizations or organizations that are trying to tackle a new problem would find that no one fully understands the domains of microservices that they want to build. Now, without such understanding, it is a very costly mistake to make, as making the wrong choice with segregating the domains might lead to solving some of the most complex problems of distributed computing in the future. For example, distributed transactions, data consistency, and latency. So I recommend that organization take some time to discover the domain using tools such as even storming workshops or domain discovery workshops before embarking on the journey to build microservices.
Rahul,